At the outset, I express my deep sense of gratitude to the organization members of the ACPR for giving me this wonderful opportunity. The moment I received the invitation from the ACPR to attend this conference, I was ignorant of Ranade's philosophy. I had not studied, but earlier I have not studied, but however, I took the help of some of the books written by Ranade and understood the central philosophy of Ranade, and I tried to present in my paper these aspects of Ranade's philosophy. The objective of my paper is to analyze the rational mysticism of Gurudev, Professor Ranade, and discuss its relevance to the present day society. Since his childhood, Ranade was of religious bent of mind. While he was once observing a cricket match on the college grounds, a thought came to him powerfully that the whole universe might be regarded as full of spirit. To Ranade, spirit is only the substance. He called his philosophy spiritual idealism. By meditating on the name of God, he began to have religious experiences. He was convinced that it is only through the God relation that man becomes perfect, sublime, and divine. Dear Chairman, please stop me if I exceed my time. Please remind me. Ranade's works include a constructive survey of Upanishad philosophy, the Bhagavad Gita as a philosophy of God realization, and Vedanta, the culmination of Indian thought. He also wrote philosophical books in Marathi, Kannada, and Hindi. In Ranade's writings, we find a comparative approach. In his work, A Constructive Survey of Upanishad Philosophy, Ranade compared the Indian philosophical thoughts with that of Greek and European philosophers like Plato, Parmenides, Kant, Bradley, Rashdell, McTaggart, and others. Ranade feels that such comparison is not only possible but necessary in the interest of the development of philosophy in general. Ranade's works on Upanishads reminded me the 2 volumes of Dr. S. Radhakrishnan on Indian philosophy, wherein he had drawn parallels between Indian and Western philosophers. The sources of Ranade's philosophy are Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and Vedanta. However, he considered that all the later Indian philosophy, including Bhagavad Gita and Vedanta, are developed over Upanishads. Hence, to Ranade, Upanishads constitute the chief source of his philosophy. There are 3 basic foundations in Ranade's philosophy. They are metaphysical, epistemological, and ethical. They are not separate, but are woven around one another. They constitute an integral whole, resulting into his mystical philosophy. The metaphysical foundations of Ranade's philosophy are found in the speculative philosophy of Upanishads. Like the Upanishadic theses, Ranade said that the ultimate reality is one. He calls it Brahman, or universal soul, or the Atman. The diversities that we perceive, he considered, are nothing but the appearances of that one ultimate reality. The Upanishadic philosophers inquired into the nature of being, by knowing which everything is known. In Chandogya Upanishad, the dialogue between Uddalaka and his son Svetaketu reveals this point. Svetaketu, after studying in Gurukul, returns to his father. Uddalaka asked Svetaketu whether he has learned that by knowing which he knows everything. Svetaketu replied no. Uddalaka then uses different analogies to explain the subtle nature of Brahman and its relationship to the material world. Using clay analogy, Uddalaka said, just as by knowing one lump of clay, all objects made from clay are known, by knowing the ultimate reality Brahman, all of existence is understood as an emanation of single substance. Uddalaka further teaches the subtle nature of Brahman by salt in water analogy. He asked Svetketu to place salt in water overnight. The next morning, the salt has dissolved and invisible, yet its pervasive salty taste remains throughout the water. Then says Uddalaka, the Brahman is everywhere and pervades all beings, though it cannot be perceived by senses. After thus teaching the Brahman knowledge, Uddalaka asked his son to go back to his teacher and further learn over this knowledge. Now the question is how the reality is realized. The Upanishad sees answer that mere intellect cannot enable to realize ultimate reality or Brahman. It can be realized only in a state of mystical realization. This mystical faculty is called intuition. We just find in Upanishads the methodology of intuition for the realization of reality, which was adopted by Ranade in his philosophy. In this context, Bergson's analysis of instinct, intellect, and intuition is very closely related to Ranade's philosophy of intuition. But I found that there is a difference between Bergsonian intuition and Ranade's intuition. Like Ranade, Bergson also divides, analyzes into sense, intellect, and intuition. But the intuition, through intuition, according to Bergson, through intuition alone, we realize the elan vital, the essence of the evolution of the world, a creative evolution. But in Bergson's philosophy, intuition is anti-intellectual. It is, but however, in Ranade's philosophy, intuition is not anti-intellectual. It is, on the other hand, the intellect or reason, it culminates into intuition. So, this is the basic difference I found between Ranade's analysis of sense, intellect, and intuition, and Bergson's analysis of sense and intellect and intuition. Though both of them, they use these terms, but still there is a beautiful distinction between them. The distinction just now, as I told. And also, there is in the metaphysics also we find a kind. It is true, like Ranade, Immanuel Kant, the German philosopher, also says that we don't have knowledge of metaphysics. We don't have knowledge of God and soul. But according to Kant, the God and soul, we have to believe in them, because they give us the necessity, morality to human life. So, Kant, in his critique of pure reason, he dispensed with these concepts, metaphysical concepts, God and soul. However, he has reinstated them again in his critique of practical reason. Like, according to Kant, the existence of God cannot be proved by any intellectual challenges, by any intellectual arguments. And Ranade also has got the same view. Ranade also tells that we don't prove the existence of God and through intellectual arguments. All intellectual arguments for the proof of the existence of the God are sophistry and illusion, according to Ranade and also according to Kant. But there is a difference between Kant's philosophy and Ranade's philosophy, though both of them reject the existence of God on intellectual ground. While Kant says we have to believe in the existence of soul and God, but Ranade says there is no question of belief. We can know them, We can know, according to Ranade, we know the God and the existence of God as well as the soul by perception. What is the perception there? He says that is through antarchikshu, by inner vision, we can know the God and we need not believe it. So this is another beautiful distinction we find in the metaphysical doctrines of Kant and Ranade. And after metaphysical foundations, I want to just tell about the epistemological foundations of Ranade's philosophy. In Indian epistemology, several pramanas are accepted. Pratyaksha, Anumana, and Upamana, and Shabda Pramana, Arthapatti, Anupalabdhi. And among all these pramanas, Ranade accepts only one pramana. He reduces all other pramanas into Pratyaksha Pramana. Ranade reduces all pramanas into one, namely Pratyaksha. By Pratyaksha, Ranade does not mean perception through external sense organs. He means perception through internal eye, the Jnana Chakshu. It is understood as Atindriya Pratyaksha or Anubhava. To Ranade, Pratyaksha in the sense of Aparakshanubhuti is the only pramana. According to him, it is immediate apprehension of reality or God. Reality may be ineffable, but it is experienceful. This Anubhava is nothing but the beatific vision of God. According to Ranade, in order to have the mystical experience of God, one must follow their moral life. This is the ethical foundation of Ranade's philosophy. He said there would be no mystical experience and no development in it unless there is a corresponding heightening of morality. To try to achieve mystical experience without corresponding development of morality is to enact the drama of Hamlet without the Prince of Denmark. In the Prince of Denmark, and the Hamlet, the play cannot be played without the Prince of Denmark because it is the Prince of Denmark is an essential character. In the same way, Ranade says that without moral, following the moral principles, one cannot attain, one cannot visualize God. Ranade thus argues that there is a variety of ethical, and again these ethical foundations, from what Ranade got it, Ranade found these ethical foundations, just like he found metaphysical foundations, Ranade also found the ethical foundations in Upanishads. From Upanishads, he has drawn these ethical foundations and then he advocated them. Ranade argues that there is a variety of ethical theories in the Upanishadic literature. One of them is anti-hedonistic theory advocated by the author of Kena Upanishad. It tells that there are two different paths, the path of good and the path of pleasure. While the wise choose the path of good before the pleasure, the fool chooses the path of pleasure before good. In Kathopanishad, we see the expression of conflict between good and pleasure. Even though the god of death, Yama, tried to seduce Nachiketa by offering the life of pleasure and glory, Nachiketa refused to be caught into the chains of pleasure. We know that story, most of you know.
Sorry, try to complete within 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. As an anti-hedonist, Nachiketa refused to be seduced by the life of pleasure. It shows virtue over pleasure. So, this is the ethical foundations Ranade found in Upanishads has been advocated. Now the metaphysical, epistemological and ethical foundations, they constitute the philosophy of Ranade, and they ultimately they all combine together. Ranade developed his philosophy of mysticism basing upon these foundations: ethical, metaphysical foundations, and epistemological foundations, and the ethical foundations. Now, what is the relevance of Ranade's philosophy to the 20th century? Now, though Ranade was born 140 years back, I feel that his philosophy is still relevant. No doubt we are living in an age of science and technology. We are able to fly in the air using aeroplanes, reach far-off planets by launching the rockets, improve longevity through the new discoveries in medical sciences, check crimes using the latest scientific technology and using artificial intelligence and etc. However, the modern man is not able to control himself. He is not able to control his selfish desires and greediness. He is confronting with his fellow beings and building up divisions in terms of identity of caste, creed, religion and nationality. This is an identity crisis. In the name of patriotism, he is demarcating national and geographical boundaries and advancing wars. Look at the devastation of life and property during the Ukraine-Russian war, Israel-Gaza war, Indo-Pak war, etc. In short, the spirit of the Vedic statement, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, is lost. In view of these facts, Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan once remarked that the modern man is able to fly in the air like a bird and swim in water like a fish, but he is not able to walk on earth like a man. And again, Bertrand Russell, the noted mathematician and philosopher, he has demarcated between goods of the body and goods of the mind and said that the value of philosophy consists in providing the goods of the mind. It is these goods that produce a valuable society. No doubt science gives us goods of the body, but these are not enough. They must be supplemented with goods of the mind. I considered spiritual and moral values are such goods of the mind. Gurudev Ranade had revisited these values in Upanishads and sacred texts like Bhagavad Gita and advocated them in his philosophy of rational mysticism. Hence, Ranade's philosophical thoughts are of high value to the present day world and society. Thank you very much.